of revenue, ranging from own source revenue, ranging from delay in disbursement of funds. And I have three gentlemen here who know a thing or two about devolution and also about governance, and they'll help us delve deeper into this issue. And beginning from my immediate left, we have Dr. Harun Isaac Hassan, who is a leadership and governance expert. Karibu, Doc, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Just next to him, we have my good friend Kevin Osido, who is the Executive Director, County Governance Watch. Good to see you, Kevin.
To you too, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Just next to him, we have an advocate of the High Court and also a leadership and governance expert. He is also a university don. He's Gibson Nyamato Gesore. Karibu sana. Happy New Year. It's been a while. I haven't seen any one of you this year. Sure. But thank you so much. Let me begin with you, Kevin. I'm looking at the biggest milestone that we have seen in matters devolution in the last couple of months has been delay in disbursement of funds. How much is this affecting, and what exactly can we do to alleviate this issue?
Thank you so much, my brother and friend. Of course, division of revenue and transfer of funds, otherwise called disbursement, is one of the biggest issues that we have, to a level where we had a number of county government staff actually doing what we call celebrating Christmas with nothing in their pockets. And this is auspicious to a number of issues, one of it being delayed disbursement. And this is courtesy of a number of other concerns, of course, including the lack of effective engagement between the National Treasury, the Council of Governors and other stakeholders in terms of what funds need to be disbursed, when they need to be disbursed, and how they need to be disbursed. So, of course, this delayed disbursement is one of those key issues that is affecting counties, and that is, it goes beyond just the recurrent expenditures, including even the development expenditures in terms of what the governors and the counties need to do within what periods of time, especially given the CIDPs, the timelines of the CIDPs and the programs and the plans of the projects of the county governments, as opposed to, again, of course, the expectations of the citizens in terms of the demand for these services, and the services being very, very critical, ranging from health to education for ECDs, to infrastructure, roads, to agriculture, to many things that counties therefore need to do. Of course, towards the end of the year, we saw conversations between the Deputy President through what is called the IBEC, the Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Committee, and of course with the governors and also Treasury to talk about this. But bottom line is that we need a framework that will be able to safeguard devolution, especially between the interplays of government, and largely into looking at how we build the capacity of counties to be able to run their affairs and deliver to the citizenry without this over-reliance on the National Treasury. And that takes me to your second question, which is therefore, what do we need to do? Of course, one of it is release the funds on time for counties. Number two is to enhance on-source revenue for counties. And on-source revenue is monies which are locally generated by the county governments, and we have a number of streams. Almost, I think, the last audit that we did, in comparison to other agencies, also move almost to 127 streams that counties have to be able to generate their own source revenue. But of course, there is a lot of work that is going to be able to ensure that that happens, ranging from what the county governments can do by themselves, the role of the county assemblies, which is really to ensure that they pass requisite laws, and of course engagements of institutions like the CRA, Commission on Revenue Allocation, supporting the counties through the different policies that have been done. I remember as County Governance Watch, we have engaged with the CRA in terms of validating some of the tools, training the county officials, and therefore there must be an uptick from the county governments, particularly the county assemblies, to support the executive to pass requisite laws, and the executives also need to come up with proper policies, because what CRA does is to do a manual which therefore needs to be domesticated at the county level. And if we do that, and of course dealing with other issues like corruption, avenues of misaccountability for funds, there should be no questions around why counties still rely on National Treasury. In fact, as I finish, Ben, is that when we did the last audit of on-source revenues, against other readings and meetings that we have attended with the partners, counties have a capacity of about 720 billion annual on-source revenue, 720 billion across the 47 counties.
About
it's almost
twice
3
of
times.
What?
It's almost 3 times.
Almost 3 times what they get.
Yeah, because currently they get, I think, 358 billion as opposed to the last CRA, the DORA, I mean the Division of Revenue Act, which we had, which reduced it to from 401 billion to about 358 billion. And so if you were to do the right things, I think devolution can work without this over-reliance.
Doc, I'll pick from where Osido has left because...
I like the right thing.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the challenges, and I've mentioned one of them being delay in disbursement. There's also another big challenge on the formula that is going to be used in terms of what we are going to be giving counties. And we have seen the governors pulling on their side. We've seen government pulling on its own side. And we have also seen people pull on their own side, talking about 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. Others talking about 1 man, 1 vote, 1 kilometer. There has been that issue of the formula on what to give counties what. This has been a challenge for a number of years.
Thank you very much. Ben, I would like to refer to devolution as a baby that was born by the 2010 Constitution. And if you look at keenly that baby, the aim was to decentralize power and resources so that we are able to reach the grassroots level of governance, so that we are able to provide equitable resources to the country and, of course, to respective government that has been born. However, the reason as to why devolution was established was basically to promote governance at the local level. And definitely, governance is a big issue at the local level, meaning the aim was to promote governance, but do we actually have structures for governance at the local level? This is what we are still struggling with. 13 years down the line, the biggest challenge is lack of understanding and proper approach to the governance systems for the governments that has been established at the local level. Secondly, of course, public participation was one of the things that was aimed at ensuring that the public from the grassroots level are able to participate in nation building, are able to participate in resource allocation, and of course are able to participate in governance within that particular area. And of course, improving service delivery within the local area, because earlier on, services were controlled from the national level, a centralized system. That system has been disseminated into a more robust 47 country or government within the country. This basically was supposed to contextualize their own area of operation, so that the policies that are anchored on Nairobi County shouldn't be the same as the one anchored on Turkana County or Mandera County, because they have different approach, they have different culture and social approach, and of course they have different needs. A county in Nairobi has been basically beneficiary of all kind of resources from the independence time to date, because this was the capital city, it is the capital city, and the aim was to make sure that Kenya has a robust and well-established capital city that can form a hub for South and Central Africa. And basically, that has been achieved, meaning then the resources have been coming here. So people were saying then, can these resources be disseminated down there? So we may have some elements of improved services from the onset of when public devolution has been rolled out. We may have a bit of economic growth in some of the counties, though not all the counties, because the bottom line is that there are counties that are still struggling the same way that they were struggling before devolution. And now the challenge is not actually from the devolution itself. The biggest challenge in the devolved government is financial management and resource allocation, which my brother has put it very well. Now, financial management and allocation are two things that go in hand, but they can't divorce each other. If you are given resources, and that particular resources you are given, you are not able to manage it, then definitely, whether it is massive resources or mega resources, you will have a challenge in making significant development within that area that you operate. That is one. Secondly, of course, devolution was supposed to be without political interference. And the other big challenge that we have is the political interference. If you can't separate politics with devolution, then we will have priorities changed upside down. You will see people interfering with things that, in essence, wouldn't have been a problem if there was no politics or if there was no politicking in it. So that is the other thing that people should look at. Of course, the biggest major challenge, the third one, is the capacity of government issues. I mean, we are appointing or electing governors who do not understand exactly how government operates. And that is why I said several times in our media that indeed we must change the requirement for a governor within the county. Meaning, even if we have democracy, the democracy shouldn't be ridden by quality and knowledge of governance. Reason being, if a governor has never set a foot in an institution and he has never managed resources, resources includes financial resources, human capital, operations and all other things that entails, then this particular person who is just a businessman who got a degree from nowhere, we God knows, and then because he has met the basic requirement, because he has a degree, and then because he has resources, he has money, he is able to be elected to the office. But what happens is that you will find this particular person managing that government of his like a business entity. And that is where the biggest challenge is coming from.
Okay, we will be looking at governance.
Yes, if you look at across our governors, very few of them have ever set foot in a government system. Majority of them are people who are wealthy or they have stolen money from some particular areas and now they decided to put there. The fourth element that I think we need to factor in so that we should not actually champion for more resources to the counties, if you may ask me, is the issue of corruption. You are given money now, you have, the corruption level has tripled within the county government. Resources every now and then, every financial year, the Auditor General, who is responsible for or Financial Controller and Auditor General, who are responsible for ensuring that resources have been utilized based on the purpose that was intended for, report every year losses of billions, more than even what the counties are allocated for. If you add them together, probably it could be around a trillion, and a budget of 2021 or 2020, the whole country's budget is now earmarked as misappropriated resources within the county government. That means then, if corruption is not tamed, if there are no actions taken in terms of accountability process, in terms of ensuring that the resources that you have been entrusted with have been utilized well, and you did not show that clearly in your audit, then actions should be taken and you should not be allowed to be given more additional money until you account for that. So basically, these are the things, inequality and disparities, of course, between counties that we have already talked about. My brother, who is an expert in the county devolution issues, has already said there are issues of inequalities. For example, we do not have a single tarmac road And this is our 60th year that we have been celebrating in northern Kenya. Now is when people talk about they are going to give you tarmac. I mean, it is okay, better late than never. But do you think the demand of the people in northern Kenya are the same as the people who have resources or access to resources within their counties? No, it can never be. Insecurity is the biggest challenge in those areas. And this is because we do not have proper infrastructure in place where even our security apparatus will have had an opportunity to respond quickly. So the challenge is not as easy as what... Finally, I just want to finish with this. Finally, resources like water in northern Kenya has been a big issue. For example, now in Mandera County and other part of the county, we are hearing there are no water. Now, users to get to get clean drinking waters. Every year we do that. Every other year. Look at the amount of water that comes from Ethiopian islands, passed through our counties, drained into Indian Ocean, and yet we are not strategically finding a solution to harvest those particular waters that will have lasted years, even if rain doesn't come, for those innocent people living in northern Kenya. I mean, the northerners are different from our central Kenya or western Kenya simply because of their geographical landscape as well as the benefits they get from the environment that is already highland other than arid and semi-arid regions, which has been now culminated into a desert actually, as we speak now. Deserts. So there are quite a number of challenges. So disparities in resource allocation, the counties are some of the challenges.
And that because some counties are, because the resources that they get vis-a-vis what they really need are two different things, north and south. Wakili, I'm looking at some of the devolved units because we are looking at devolution. We are not only devolving funds, we are also devolving services. Agriculture and health, to be specific. When we talk about health, we have had a myriad of challenges since it was devolved. And now we also even have CHPs, the community health promoters, who who are more or less, we see the government has a hand in it, and we know very well health is devolved. When we go to agriculture, the same thing is happening, including even, what do we call them? Extension officers. Yeah. More or less seem to government. Well, we know very well of devolved units.
It's quite interesting, Troy, to see how the interplay between national government and the roles or functions which were actually devolved. You get to see that government, the national government, seems to be taking an upper hand in terms of providing those services and even making policies around them. Some of the policies are actually not so popular with Kenyans. For example, issues of vaccination. Talk about you want to vaccinate all Kenyans across the country, all animals across the country against for mitigation of climate change. That sounds like a national government plan, which should be a county government. Even the people, the experts have questioned the whole process. So that is one of the things. You have mentioned the community health workers, which is also a positive move. But this positive move needs to be channeled through the counties. Let the counties handle their own people the best way they know how. The challenges which face Kenyans are not the same. Dr. Arias just talked about the challenges facing the northern side and not the same challenges which are facing the southern side. There are diseases which are prevalent in their area which are not prevalent in this side. So we need even these community health workers to be trained on specific which are their regions. So those are some of the things which we need to really be able to formulate a process around and be able to agree how do we move forward, because the usurping of roles from the counties make the counties not to have structures for the same, and they cannot be able to plan and manage their resources around those. And that is a big challenge, and that offends the constitution as it were. So it's very important that we have a clear, I think through my friend Kevin, we need a conference to discuss how exactly do we have clear delineation of responsibilities, how do we have resources to be dispersed so that we can have some sort of memorandum of understanding what the county should be able to do and how national government should be able to come and when. For example, in the US, there is the issue of security. Security is largely a state issue, but then there are times that the national government, the federal government does come in by giving an order, for example, deployment of the National Guard. That is purely a function of when something, for example, there is a statewide demonstration. It's only the national government and the president of the US who can be able to deploy the National Guard, or on request from the state governor. We can have something like that in terms of agriculture, in terms of health. If a county has been maybe invested with some disease which they cannot be able to control, there's a certain pandemic outbreak within a certain region, let the national government come in, but essentially the issues of health, let them be managed by the counties as the constitution anticipates. It's very important that we can be able to delineate some of these things because we cannot talk of success of devolution if we cannot be able to empower it. And we cannot be able to empower it if we are not giving the resources and building the structures that are needed. So it's important as Kenyans we decide, because seemingly there's a breakdown either in communication between national and county government, because from time to time I don't understand this business of IBEC where you always have to go and beg some resources from the national government, where the constitution is very clear that 15% needs to go. Government seems to be saying that of what? Where is this money? And some of the counties understandably understand that people went to the county without any money, without any of their salaries. It's now that the pay lorry is being prepared even for payment for county workers. Why is that happening? And yet counties should be able to have ready money, especially for payment of salaries. Those are some of the challenges which need to be looked into keenly. About devolution, we are which is called devolution. When you have a baby, you empower, you give them good, you ensure that I don't shepherd to be the baby that, and that in counties spread across development, and that I sometimes talk to setting up very Tanzania is doing mega things. They are talking about launching their railway to connect across the country, as we are only talking about Talanta Stadium. How can we as a country be thinking so minimally while Ethiopia is actually launching the grand, producing 6,000? Our competition competing or and having aspiration to be a single neighbors whom we are also trailing in a development. It's quite unfortunate that for able to do as a country and be able to empower Kenya. And you see, this is where we make our money. This is what essentially becomes the base for us to even make more resources for us to even share out. Because if the cake is growing thin or small by the day, then we'll always be having the challenges at IBEC where we have to, should we give you 400, should we give make it 350? You know, such discussion should not be. Kevin has clearly elaborated that counties are able to generate. We should be talking about how do we increase the resources for counties to go to 1 trillion. We're looking forward,
no matter the
backwards.
Percentage,
yes.
but the
we
figure
need to
itself.
bake a bigger cake.
Yes.
But we cannot bake a bigger cake while we see the things which we saw in last December, where people were stuck for 3 days along Nairobi highway.
Yes.
That's quite unfortunate.
Yeah.
We need to have all these highways opened. we need to be talking how we increase. I mean, people are condemning the central people, but we need we have a bigger picture of having that road go all the way to Isiolo so that it connects with the LAPSET project. Those are the things we should be talking about. And every time we waste from doing those things, the challenges are already very clear to us that we can at times as Kenyans not travel. Because you don't have roads and basic infrastructure.
Kevin, how detrimental is it for I'm looking at the services that the government is still clinging on?
You know, and, it is, yes.
For devolution purposes, because we are talking about we really need to strengthen this baby. Some of the services are more owned.
Are enormous. If you an audit of what national government still holds compared to the expectation of the Constitution, transfer of functions are struggling is because even as we talk about on-source revenue, but a majority of the functions that are supposed to be there, immediate low-lying fruits for OSR or on-source revenue, are actually still being held by the national government. So the detrimental aspect is both in terms of the human resource, so county staff to be able to do those assignments, and also the requisite, for example, on health, capacity of our health to a level where any citizen would require from that county is present, from drugs to whatever it is, you know. Counties were supposed to levy charges. Is one of those that to raise its revenue, citizen will also get the service. Talk about extension. It means that by coming to my west in constituency to look I have, and then they take pesa maybe 300 ya fuel, alafu kwa hii service you pay me 1,500 ambayo hautanipea cash. Kuna system yenye unatuma. It means that the county to raise revenue, and I also get the service which brought this person here. But government is still holding that function, including the budget, because the function, we normally say functions follow. So if the function is still held, it means that the money can also not go to the counties. Of course, Ben, there is a lot of conversation that is going on to be able to deal with this issue, because a number of devolution workers, or rather friends of devolution like ourselves, County Governance Watch, and many, many others, and development partners have been putting pressure on the national government to secede these functions. Of course, courtesy of President William Ruto's commitments, overbearing commitments, because I think it's too much talk with very limited or no action. Because every time the president speaks to the nation, he says, we are going to ensure complete transfer. From the time that he was sworn in as president up to today, last December, I think from October, November, December, we saw many meetings between IBEC, the Council of Governors, Senate Committee on Devolution, and also intergovernmental relations, including even IGRTC, the committee that is actually tasked by Constitution to ensure that all these things are happening. So very good meetings, elaborate plans to ensure that these things are done, but the commitment actually to do it is government. Who wants to have how many people, you know, in terms of officers reporting to them, the political goodwill to support that complete transfer with the Department of Devolution, I think, conversation on county public service boards to prepare them to receive, you know, the staff be devolved to the counties. We talk too much, but you don't see the action to just release and, you know, to empower the counties to do the work that they're supposed to do. So we have the right institutions, we have the right plans. Maybe we have the wrong people in office, people who are, I think Dr. is the one who began by saying some of the governors don't have the capacity of government. Maybe it is true, not just for governors, but even at the national level, so that we ensure that the right people are in office. I know before Mheshimiwa Gachagua was impeached, they said IBEC has not met because Gachagua has refused to call the meeting. Counties don't have money, so you doctors are striking because, so we need to impeach him. But this is many months and many days since he was impeached.
You're still where
but
we
we are
are.
still where we were. So what really is the problem? Is it a problem of governance?
Yes.
Is it a problem of the people? Is it a problem of the institutions? But from where I sit, and that's why I say that we need to do the right things the right way. And if we can do those right things, and probably if we have time, we can outline what these right things are that we must do to get the right things done right.
Doc, you want to add something on that? And also, let's look at own source revenue, because because of the interest of time, we need to pick up the pace.
Yeah, I think it is important for me to weigh in the issue of devolving health. The devolution of health is something that was welcomed so much, simply because the health structures that were controlled by the national government was so structured to the extent that by the time you get to the dispensary, the health center, or the district hospital, a year has elapsed. And the essence of having that devolve was to just have people within the county who oversees these health services within that location. And therefore, taking management of health systems or health services to the county was a brilliant idea. But the way this has been done, the approach that was taken, did not actually bring any value from where it was to where it is now. Simply because, you know, technical things require scientific approach. You don't just approach it the way you want. Schools. You cannot just say, I have devolved the schools, and therefore all the teachers should report to the government. All of a sudden, you'll find there are a lot of technical things that needs to be put in place within the county structure so that they're able to absorb the requirements for all the teachers. Or similarly, health is like that. For example, you have given, you have given the county to run the health facilities. One of the major things, beside all those achievements and hopes that Kenyans had, is financial constraint and inadequate funding. Who does that? It is the county government, because allocation is given by the national government. Their priority is not to the health facilities, both infrastructure, personnel, health workers, supplies, because a hospital or health services are consumers of resources, and the county government will not want to put all their money to be consumed by the health facilities, and therefore they will have option of not paying their health workers for 3 months and expect them to deliver services within those. Yet you know very well remuneration service also go down. You will find issues and mismanagement in even those facilities. Each hospital to be managed, their hospital, their patient support cost will be in the ward, paying cost within the facility, which is cost sharing. I've not heard of it since. Government also contributes to ensuring that drugs are available, patients within the hospital are fed, drugs are available and they are treated, hygiene and cleaning of those facilities, including sterilization and all other things, are done. Operationalization of the theaters and maternity wings, which are a place which requires to be of high standard in terms of cleanliness and disinfection, because cross-infection within the hospital can even go into the community and cause diseases outbreaks. Okay. So there are quite a number of things inadequate in health service delivery. I mean, the issue is you are to employ some health workers, yet you have given a priority to employ the county security guards You know, we have already National Police Service, who are providing security. A county governor does not require his own soldiers, because this is the same government, the same people we are running, the same land that we are talking about. And therefore, if you have already national government security, you don't need another. Every county has their own military now. They don't have weapons. I don't know whether they have been given private weapons.
The guards. Yeah.
The guards. But why do you want to devolve? You know, when someone tells me the national government have not devolved the health services completely, I'll also tell them they are generating another job that is already tasked and being paid by national government to provide security of everybody within the county. But the county governor establishes his security structure. For what? Why are you duplicating the same role?
Right.
Instead, why don't you
question,
actually employ health workers who will be sufficiently in all health facilities to provide health services and health care? So quite a number of things are at mess. So for me, my brother will say the national government has held a lot of money. I think let's first manage the resources we have been given appropriately. Let's put proper structures that will go into govern the system.
Because of the interest of time, Wakili, bloated workforce, duplication of roles, this is something also undermining devolution. And 15 years down the line, we seem not to be tackling that issue as well.
It's not easy to tackle such an issue of bloated workforce, because there was that the staff which was inherited. Then each county governor becomes a regional kingpin, so he wants to put his people in office. So even if the other one leaves,
yes,
you see, he may, before he leaves, permanent, and because now that means firing. It's a legal process and a very costly one. It becomes messy, noisy, and all that. The other aspect is he needs to employ his. That is what leads to what Dr. is talking about now. You find that in the main streamlined jobs, you cannot be able to employ anybody. So you create things like security, your county security. You start employing people left, right, and center. And resources get used. Resources which either could have gone to employing key personnel in the health sector, or even doing roads, which are supposed to be done, or even employing ECD teachers. So that is how we have devolution being messed up everywhere, right from Nairobi. We have the challenge of, they were employing, was it 3,000 people? But then the city is still very dirty for environment. So we need to ask ourselves, what are we exactly doing? How do we hold these governors accountable for some of these actions? How do we audit counties? I think if Kevin can be able to come up with a very clear, elaborate mechanism which we can be able to use to audit counties in terms of service delivery. And that is a very big problem. Even before we go to the issues of resources, the resources they have received, like Nairobi County doesn't need really resources from the national government. The governor the other day was boosting that he can be able to collect 50 billion. 50 billion with the 20 billion given by the national government, that makes it around 70 billion. 70 billion is significant resources for you to do even the basic thing of cleaning the county. Just ensuring that there is clean, and then even doing the trenches so that the storm water can actually be managed. So we have a lot to do in terms of ensuring that the counties work through the kind of people. Now that goes to the question which Dr. was saying. We even suspect that some of these governors do not have the right documentation to ensure that they can actually understand and they can be able to perform some of the functions, which, not all, but some. We just need some. Because now asking for all would be an overstretch if they cannot be able to do even the basic jobs. So it's important and it's imperative as Kenyans. There's something which is also very important and critical, which is critical to our constitution and to devolution: public participation. How many times have you ever had a county call for public participation in terms of coming up with a budget? We only talk about it at the national government, but county budgets, you ask the villagers, they actually don't know when it was passed, where it was passed, what is actually in that particular budget. They don't know. They don't know which road is supposed to be done and where or when. So those are some of the challenges. Even if we are talking about policy issues, we are also talking about implementation challenges where even mwananchi issues of public sensitization are not there. Because devolving the national government functions was to also ensure that the local people are well sensitized to understand what devolution can do for them. Unlike countries which even do not have devolution, you go to Tanzania, a Tanzanian will explain to you in the village what the national government is doing for them in the local areas. The same thing to Botswana. So they understand government policy to the ground.
All right. Your final word, Kevin, you mentioned 127 streams, revenue streams for counties. Maybe you can touch about 5 or 10, because many counties would want to make their own money.
No, the counties no. For example, you have land rates. Many times we have seen governors talking about waivers, and they put very big billboards, you know. So that is for landlords and people who have places where they pay certain, rates to the county government. And one of the challenges we have is, for instance, that the county assemblies, they have not been able to. I think only about 6 to 11 have already dealt with the question of valuation roll, because the valuation roll is what shows you what you can levy, on landlords and those who are supposed to pay rent. So even as you do the waivers, and sometimes they do even up to 110% waivers, but people do not understand, one, what that means, and even the requisite benefits, because you cannot be paying, for example, rent to a shop that does not even have security. It doesn't have washrooms, so the basic amenities, even the road that you use to get to that particular shop of yours is totally messed up. And you'll see now in Nairobi County, until when we wrote a letter to the former CEC for roads and Kura, now we at least, and that was during the April-June floods that we had in the city. Now they've woken up, let me say, to be able to construct a few roads here and there, but citizens expect more. Of course, the second one is, for example, billboards, so advertising. We have in all these 47 counties spaces that are exclusively left for counties to be able to use for adverts. So as you put your billboard and the posters, there is money which you pay to the county government. We have liquor. All these wines and spirits shops, they pay, as a small piece of paper called a certificate, or what is that thing called?
Unfortunately,
so, they know so many of those. But I hope that you and the team will invite us once again
of course,
to talk about this transfer of functions. Article 186 talks about a number of things, including exclusive functions that are supposed to be exclusively done by national and county governments, which takes us to Schedule 4. Then we have concurrent functions like roads. We have roads that are being done by national government and roads that should be done by county governments. And then we have residual functions which have not been assigned. So how do we navigate those issues? And then how do we ensure that they are supported in terms of funding and also the human resource?
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately we are out of time. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Harun Isaac Hassan.
He asked me, by the way, Ben, sorry, I'm so sorry as you close, whether we have a tool. Yes, as County Governance Watch, we have